Great. Welcome everyone to our podcast panel discussion titled Secure Data Connectivity for Future Networks, 5G, 6G, the Role of Ecosystems. Hello, everyone. My name is Julia Gifford, and we will be talking about all things related to defense and next generation communications networks. So I am joined today by four incredible panelists. We are joined by Kristiāns Teters, an IT security specialist from CERT, the Information Technology Security Incidents Response Institution of the Republic of Latvia. We have Evijs Taube, a board member at LVRTC, the Latvian State Radio and Television Center. Kaspars, Pollaks, Head of Business Area Defense and Public Safety at LMT, Jesper Olsen, Director and Chief Security Officer in Northern Europe at Palo Alto Networks. And co-moderating with me today will be Neils Kalniņš, Director of 5G Techritory under the Electronic Communications Office of Latvia. Now, before we get to our questions for our panelists, I would like to ask Neils, who is the instigator, you could say, of this coming together, about why he has brought together these people here for a discussion under the Riga Security Forum. So, Neils, handing the virtual microphone over to you.
Thank you, Julia. Hello, Pollaks. It's really a great pleasure for me to be here today with you, and I hope we will have a brilliant discussion about actually very, very essential topic, which is security. So for 5 years, I'm leading the initiative for Nordics and Baltics, or for Baltic Sea region, called 5G Techritory. And what we are doing for this period is we are creating ecosystem. What does it mean? It means that we see how difficult it actually is to deploy new technologies. And we see a lot of challenges related to legal frameworks, to new science, to real business development, new business models, etc., etc. And we recognized very early that we should bring all parties together from the ecosystem, scientists, governmental people, and of course the industry, to talk how to overcome those challenges, how to create safe world, safe environment for people who are creating technologies and also for people who are using technologies. Of course, this year is very special for not just Baltic Sea region, but globally. The Ukraine and everything that goes on raised up a new challenge, the security challenge. And that's the reason why we are here to discuss how we can cooperate with each other and what could be eventually sense of ecosystem having the new situation what we have locally and globally. And I do hope that we can contribute to each other with valuable things and thoughts, how we can create more safe and rational world around us and more safe for our citizens, not just from military point of view, also from civil point of view, but as we can see today, all those things are actually very much related with each other.
Thank you very much, Neil, for that lovely introduction. Now, I'd like to go around the panel and ask each panelist about what security as a topic, as a term, means to them, because security is a broad term, and even within the Riga Security Forum, it covers not only cybersecurity, but also defense, and all of that represented at both civil and military levels. So we have a variety of experiences here at the panel, and I would like to know which angle of security you are here to represent. So maybe I will start with Kristiāns and ask you.
Thank you, Julia. Since I represent CERT.lv, of course, we, as an institution, we care more about the cybersecurity. And in short, it would be that we tend to improve the Latvian cyberspace, and also to our knowledge, the securities when both integrity, confidentiality, and availability of information are met with the appropriate policies, technical measures, organizational measures, and etc. So actually, that is the work that we are undergoing. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. And then we can move on to my next clockwise speaker. We have Evijs, Taube. Evijs, could you tell us which angle of security you represent?
Hello, Julia. Thank you. Maybe we should start with the naming, which is LVRTC, so Radio Television Center. The name is itself maybe misleading because it's not only about radio and television anymore, but about, let's say, plenty of technical stacks, starting with data centers, with fiber optics, up to the solutions, e-signature, EID. So many things we are working on, and we are providing the service. And in a way, all of those levels, without exception, requires security. So the security, obviously, it's not one thing, it's like multiple number of things, and these multiple things are growing like every year and every day maybe. So we call it, the security should be like multi-layer, like sometimes we are comparing to the onion. So the onion has many layers, so the security should be like onion. So very short intro.
Perfect. Well put. Thank you. Jesper, can we get your approach?
Absolutely, and thanks for having me. So representing Palo Alto Networks as a global cybersecurity leader, not only bringing the technology tools, so the toolbox to the security teams as well as the operational teams, but also focusing on services. I think one of the challenges that I personally would like to address and have tried to address over the past more than 20 years I've been in the information security game is about the language. Making sure that every layers in an organization, back to the onion as well in terms of language, making sure everybody understands not just the necessity of applying security at the right level, adequate measures as well, but also the key terms like risk, for instance. There are so many times where it's not understood in the right way at an executive level as well as at an operational level. So that's my personal aspect to this. But today, I'm representing the cybersecurity industry. I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
Perfect. And then that leaves us with, last but not least, Kaspar.
Good afternoon, everybody. That's a great pleasure to be in a group of such a nice people and represent LMT, which is mobile innovator, as we used to say, and the telecommunication company, which has actually spearheaded during the last years the development of the part of the defense ecosystem in Latvia. And if we talk about the security, then extremely trendy word, what we observed during the last period of time is resilience. And I think that the security, that's all about the resilience. And the two main components are the security of supply and communications. And from the Ukraine example, we see that Ukraine continues and will continue to successfully repel the invasion, because these two elements has been kept active. Ukrainians have managed to set up the necessary communication network for the military, and not only the military actually, and the supply chain continues to work, and we can supply Ukrainians. So being said that, we are the guys on the communication side.
Yeah, never more important than ever. And so thank you for all of your responses. We have a bit of a better idea about the different aspects that you represent. So I have some specific questions, but as this is a discussion, I definitely invite you to jump into the discussion with your own opinion and perspective. And then where necessary, my co-moderator Neils and myself will also steer the discussion further. So to get started, I think a base question that we can discuss is understanding that the implications of security and 5G together. And now with 5G networks comes the connectivity of even more things, thousands and thousands and thousands of more things. We're talking smart city sensors, Internet of Things, home and office solutions, wearable tech, so many different aspects that are connected to the internet. And with increasing connections, we have an increasing risk of breaches. And we know that the European Union has recognized both the opportunities as well as the consequences of this, and it has responded with an EU toolbox for 5G security. And we know that our panelist here, Kristiāns Teters, has worked on this policy and its implementation nationally. So Kristiāns, can you tell us more about this policy or this toolbox?
Yes, I will. At first, I will correct. I've not worked on implementation nationally, but rather the national specialist of creating this document. Well, and speaking on contents, there were nationally many specialists involved, which gave their part. Well, we also did as a national CERT.lv. We are not that straightforward experts of 5G, but nonetheless, things that we see, well, with 3G and 4G, the risks we have, we implemented our view. What measures should be taken? What risks are to be taken? What risks are to be avoided? And what measures have to be stepped up? So actually, the NIS cooperation group in Europe collected these views and came up with the document that transponded, well, all the member states' expert view on what are the main risks for 5G implementation and what are the main steps to be taken, both in technical sense, like supplier chain security, technical measures to be implemented, etc. On governmental terms, audits, security measures, adhesion to standards, and some additional measures. And actually, it's the document. It's free for each member state to undertake which part, maybe the technical, maybe the governments, maybe some sort of really 2 out of 3 or 4 risks out of 10 mentioned, but nonetheless it should be viewed as a guideline for actually member states who want to securely build their 5G network. But I guess maybe there will be some technical specialist view, maybe from LMT or other people. Thank you.
Well, I think that this definitely represents kind of that first wave of, okay, we're implementing this new technology. We need to have systems in place. We need to have governing policies, or at least guidelines. And what I definitely want to ask Jesper about is, as a representative of Palo Alto networks, who were the first to create 5G solutions in general before many of these guidelines were available, I wanted to ask you about how that differed and what there were any challenges specific to address when compared to previous generation network solutions.
Thanks, Julia. Yeah, good question. Well, it doesn't really matter how we define, with industry-specific terminology, whether we call it network slices or radio arena networks, multi-access edge environments, and all the other 5G expressions that all of a sudden become of interest to many organizations. There are still a lot of lackings for 5G security when we started talking about the design behind 5G and the opportunities, and businesses will always look probably a bit more optimistic towards the opportunities, and then they forget about some of the challenges that might come from, rapid development of those opportunities. And that was exactly what we see and saw at the time as well. But some of the challenges was actually quite comparable to what we see in many enterprises, unfortunately still see. So even if I split it up in the 2 sort of major categories of 5G customer space, it's the enterprise and the service provider. The primary challenges was related to the capabilities within, visibility, prevention of known and unknown threats, as well as the response capabilities. And that, when you say it holistically like that, is exactly the same as many enterprises actually undergo with their enterprise infrastructure today, right? So it was sort of an easy decision for us to also move into that space based on the extensive experience we've received from working with so many customers on the enterprise network space. But then, of course, the service providers differ a little bit, right? Their challenges evolve a lot around the business continuity. So always having the services available, of course, it's a strict requirement. They're also more focused on the compliance assurance part and as well as the protection of sensitive data. So for us, working around the visibility and control, even down to the localized data set that is now becoming a reality of 5G technology, as well as the prevention of known and unknown threats, and providing the real-time response capabilities across the entire flow in a data transaction, that was something that we really wanted to be a part of, and we saw a significant need for. So just to sort of come back to your original question, it actually didn't differ that much in terms of challenges. Where it did differ was in understanding the necessity of having it from the very beginning. And that's where we wanted to inject the security component.
Great. So you emphasize the similarity with, or the experience from previous generation technology and being able to apply it to this one. But if we're looking forward even further, we're looking at what I've understood is an unknown threat, theoretically, to cybersecurity, and I'm talking about quantum computers, which can break our concept of encryption altogether. So I guess briefly, I'll ask Jesper, is that something that cyber professionals are worried about right now? And then I'm going to move on to other panelists who have very direct experience with this.
Yeah, I would say yes, to some extent, right? That's the shortest answer I can give. We know that quantum computing, it is going to be, and of course, what it will mean to cryptography in general, or perhaps more specifically, what it will mean to existing implementation of encryption is going to be something that most organizations should actually think about already. At the same time, you probably also know that as abstract as it might be to sort of phrase it and have the strategic conversations for enterprises, at least, this is not on the strategic drawing board as of yet. There are a few organizations looking into it, but I would say predominantly in the government and defense space. But that is definitely also an area to be focused on this. Everybody knows in the defense arena, if you want to build a strong algorithm, as well as having a secure implementation of that strong algorithm, can be a 5, 10, maybe even a 15-year journey. And to be honest, those predictions that we see right now, quantum computing is going to be a challenge in the current encryption schemes within the next 10 years. So I think we're slowly coming to that, the race, right? So who's going to win the race if we don't start it strategically as well?
And so moving from the theoretical to the practical, we have on our panel Evijs Taube, who has been highly involved in a proof of concept demonstration here in Latvia. Evijs, can you tell us more about the demonstration and its implications?
Yeah, thank you. Maybe to start with the answer, the short maybe background and maybe a few words more about this quantum computing, which is basically what it is. It's basically a brute force which is coming, and it will be, well, who knows how much power it will have and how it will break the Moore's law. And how far it will continue, but the fact is it is coming, and maybe the security industry is planning something, but what is worrying is that the scientists are maybe raising some flags already that the industry should be prepared and should do something. And as we know, the fact is that there is a European project with significant funds available, and the fact is that not only LVRTC but with our partners, we have applied for such a project and have been accepted, and the project is starting next year, or maybe even end of this year. And to prepare for that project, we had to make some proofs, and the proof is basically the real life test we have done last year. It's 1 year ago already, with big help from University Institute of Mathematics. And we did basically put the, let's say, prototype quantum key distribution units. Yeah, funny, they are called, as in normal cryptography, Alice and Bob. So we put those devices in on our like standard fiber optic link, and we have achieved the let's say Latvian record. Maybe it's not huge, but it's 34 kilometers, and the thing works basically. Of course, it's very difficult to understand how the spins and the spin state of photons, how does it work. So this is very limited number of people who really understand this low level physics, but anyway, the thing works. So what it does basically, it gives us plenty of super secure keys, symmetric keys on both ends, which Alice and Bob only understands and agrees together that these are valid keys. And we were able to change these keys like every 30 seconds for the normal data encryption. What does it mean? Basically, it means that even with a quantum computer, you should be within this 30 seconds to break the key. Yeah. So in a way, nowadays, and maybe for even coming years, this quantum key distribution that we can call 100% secure.
And Evijs, what implications does that have for LVRTC? Is that something that you will be implementing at a further scale?
Basically, the project, what we will be doing in next couple of years within this project, the goal of the project is to build the we call it the spine or the backbone on our like physical main locations, which are the obviously our critical data centers. So between the data centers and also with our partners, there will be this like limited segments of the network, because the fact is the units are not anymore the prototypes. They are like a normal units, but still expensive. So this industry is still only starting. Obviously, within the years, who knows, maybe in 5-10 years, it will be like a commodity. Yeah, but nowadays it's still expensive. So we are putting it in place, but on limited sectors, on the most critical.
Now, Evijs, here's a question that just popped into my mind. Knowing that Latvia has the most amount of optical fiber connections per capita in the world, does that change the possible rate of adoption?
In a way, yes. The fact is that the fiber optics, it's plenty. Of course, many enterprises have their own, and we are not like unique like LVRTC. But the fact is that the skills of our people, of our specialists, these are on a very high level. And within this real life tests of quantum computing, it needs even more skills for this working with fiber optics. Because first we thought that okay, fiber optics, it's optics also in Africa, but within this quantum things and single photons being transferred, these optics are even on a next level requirements. So the skills are the most important, I would say.
Great. And looking at our panel, it looks like we have those skills here. So far, all of you have emphasized the importance of cybersecurity and security in general for our critical infrastructure. And one panelist here, we have Kaspars, brings together the two, the side of the telecommunications, the secure networks, along with the defense sector. And so I'm interested, Kaspar, along with the rise of fast and secure mobile connectivity, we're seeing that this is possibly changing the face of defense. Can you tell us what you're seeing and what you're doing and the implications on global security?
Thank you, Julia. It's a great question. I think all of you should know that during our free time, we just not only bring 5G to the military training areas and the different stuff there, we sell iPhones and a lot of iPhones. And that's actually is the thing we observe in the military, the smartphoneization of the military. If we look, let's say back some maybe 10, 15 years ago, besides working at LMT, I'm a reserve officer in Latvian Armed Forces. So when I was trained as the junior officer and cadet, we were relying totally on the conventional military communications, meaning that if we have a military action, we communicate only using the sophisticated Harris radio stations, etc., etc. We are looking extremely closely to Ukraine now, and since 2014, we can see that the modern battlefield gets more and more civilian communications getting into it. At the moment, we can surely say that most of the warfare conducted at the moment in the Ukraine is conducted on the WhatsApp or Signal, and in the best case using the Starlink, because as soon as you push the button on your military radio, you get the incoming artillery shells because the signature is much higher, and that's what actually we see. And that's the other angle of this is that in the previous years, and I'm talking again maybe more than 15 years back, we have observed that the most modern technologies, and including communication technologies, they were entering, like satellite communications, they were entering actually from the military into the civilian world. Now it's completely vice versa. So at the moment we have, even in Ukraine, every military personnel has his smartphone in his pocket. So the big question is, how do we use that? How do we use that for the total defense elements and things, and then there comes another angles, the network-centric warfare. Actually, this level of connectivity we have at the moment on the battlefield gives us the full spectrum of capabilities to actually exploit this fancy term of network-centric warfare, where more or less all elements of the combat action, artillery, signals, intelligence, infantry are interconnected. And we believe that the huge role in this is for the conventional mobile communications and for the, let's say, hybrid networks, mesh networks, etc., including the 5G, when we will answer altogether to a lot of questions about the security, about deployability, etc.
Yeah, I love those snippets, the smartphoneization, the iPhoneization of the military. And we have another, Jesper here, who has the combination of military background as well as the cybersecurity background. Do you have anything to add to that? What are you seeing in terms of infrastructure, data, mobile networks?
Yeah, well, I can definitely add a bit to that. I just came from participating at the NATO Edge conference that took place in Mons over the past couple of days. And I was talking at the innovation stage, and I was talking about, the new need and the new requirements for connectivity across different sets of military networks as well. And that, of course, when there's a requirement for connecting previously classified and air-gapped, very strong perimeter secure networks, when you start connecting them with third parties, and Kaspars, you also mentioned that right supply chain is becoming an issue. When you connect to third-party suppliers from what you previously had under full closed control, you open up the door for all sorts of things, right? And that, if you add that together with the mix of the smartphone occasion, I really love that expression as well. If you take those two, combine it, you're going to see a plethora of new challenges in your organization, not just from the new threat landscape or the expanding threat landscape, but what about the resources you have internally? Do they even understand this new threat landscape? Do they have the right capabilities to respond to whatever happens there? I think that is going to be a huge challenge as well. expansion in one area requires expansion in another area, or at least a very different approach to how you ensure you have those capabilities and how you act on them, right? And this is one of the reasons why we're so strongly focused on bringing simplification and automation to our customers, because that's going to secure us going forward as well.
It sounds like
Julia, if I just may add to what Jesper said, that's the fantastic bullet about connecting the third parties, because everybody today in Europe, we were, I think the Baltic states were one of the first to kind of picking everybody that we will have problems with Russia. And we started to prepare early with the comprehensive defense system. And in the comprehensive defense, the military actually is not fighting alone. In a civilian crisis like in a COVID, the military entered to support us to get through the COVID crisis. In a comprehensive defense system, if we have a military crisis, then the civilian society has to enter to support military. And that's the question, how we connect all them together, the police, firefighters, medics, NGOs, etc. That's a fantastic point, Jesper.
And it sounds to me like what you guys are saying is that we are becoming increasingly dependent on other aspects of the ecosystem and relying on them and on their security practices and on knowing what's going on with them to ensure general security level, because as the old saying goes, you can only be as strong as your weakest link. And that emphasizes the point that we're trying to make here, is that we need to collaborate as an ecosystem to strengthen those different links. So I would be interested in going around the panel and asking each of you, which links, in your opinion, need to be strengthened? Where should we be putting our focus on improving our collaboration? So maybe Kristiāns, you can start us off.
Yes, thank you. Regarding the ecosystem, is that one very important thing in cybersecurity is threat intelligence. And also that's one thing that we work quite often with in CERT. And where do you get your threat intelligence? Okay, there are some platforms which different CERTs communicate. There are bulletins, vulnerabilities, but it's very important, for instance, in energetic sector, but not only that you work with the players that are currently working there, and also with the academics, because many of the proof of concepts that we have been working with is discovered by cybersecurity experts, and also the academia. They discover things and you need to then how to apply this actually to make the proof of concept, and then to give this information to the people who operate this technology. And also it's I would say there is need of quite quick information exchange channels between the different parties. That's one thing that we are working on. And another is there is actually, I would say that in the future, I see that there should be much improvement on working with the academic sector regarding cybersecurity issues, because actually those guys, they make the research, maybe some things that on daily basis industry or certs or different players cannot put their hands to that, and that's the. And also regarding, I have one more comment about resilience, is that also regarding this Ukraine crisis, that it's been a tough work since the beginning of that war, but luckily maybe is that the general public doesn't see this in Latvia, because there is the cyber resiliency of the companies is quite high. So actually we get daily DDoS attacks, but those actually are, I would say, rarely noticed by general public, is that the measures are in place to deal with that.
Yeah, one of the silver linings of our geographical positioning. Evijs, would you be able to comment on what you think needs to be strengthened in terms of our ecosystem?
Yeah, I was really thinking about the right answer, but I would say in many cases, and not only in cybersecurity, but the human factor is sometimes the weakest point. Like used to say that the problem is usually between the steering wheel and the back seat, right? The problem is in between. So in like security, the highly skilled professionals are highly required, and the fact is the Latvia and also Baltic states are not huge countries, and as we say in IT community, basically everybody knows everybody, but we need to really find those skilled workers at a young age, and it's very important to have universities and technical colleges and even the schools. It's a fact that we also have found already a couple of teenagers, let's say, they are even not finished the 12th grade yet, but they are already so enthusiastic and skilled and thinking out of the box and have new ideas, because the technologies and the like solutions, cool solutions from big vendors, it's possible to buy. Yeah, it's only a question of the investment, but the workers and the specialists and great specialists, this is, I think, top priority.
Excellent. Jesper, what do you think would be worth improving on in our general ecosystem, not only nationally, but internationally in our collaboration globally?
Yeah, I fully agree that people is definitely something that we need to focus strongly on. And I also believe that educational programs, as well as working together with those that actually are capable of doing direct research in topics that lies within security, whether it's cybersecurity or information security or general security, I think that should be a strong focus point. I always say expect the unexpected, and obviously that's one way of going through life. But I've tended to say to organizations, we have to somehow find a way to prepare for tomorrow's events, whatever that is. But just think of it this way: what's going to happen maybe tomorrow is something we haven't even the imagination to think of today, right? So how do we prepare for that? And that talks into the resilience topic as we've had. So I bring 3 capabilities to organization that spans people, process, and technology. And I say you got to have the capability. That's number 1, capability to withstand an event that would negatively impact you. And you got to have the capability to operate. That's number 2, to operate while it's negatively impacting you. So you have to be able to ring fence what is vital to you and still continue to deliver your service. And the 3rd leg is you've got to have the capability to recover from it. And this is where I always bring an emphasis on recovery does not mean returning to the previous state. Recovery means going forward to an improved state. Right. So those are probably my topics, and I'm about trying to bring that especially to young people as well. Think about information, think about security, think about how your world changes, and then imagine something that I can't think of and feed that back to me so I can help you prepare for it.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And Kaspar, what would you add on to this?
Yes, I think the education part was well covered by the honorable gentleman before me, but I totally agree that the education is one of the most important directions, and focusing on these 3 elements which were mentioned actually, and software, hardware, human, all these 3 elements. And the second big, I think, is the cooperation, which was already mentioned. And cooperation, we talked about the Baltics level. We have growing cooperation on the European Union level through the different projects as well, the R&D projects, European Defence Fund projects, where we are extremely active. but I think we have to go even more global and not to forget the transatlantic connection and link with the United States. And I think here our competitive advantage is our actually small size. On this Wednesday, I attended US Baltics Defense Industry Day, and that's where you realize that this is our competitive advantage, because you know all guys in the room, both from Lithuania and Estonia, and you are phone call away from each other, and that is something which is very impressive, and I think we left impression on our U.S. Department of Defense colleagues, because they have 16,000 personnel entering and leaving Pentagon every day. They don't know the guys next to the room, but we know each other, and that's our competitive advantage and extremely important direction, the cooperation and exchange of experience, exchange of technology and knowledge.
So we have to start thinking about wrapping up this podcast panel discussion as time is running out. But Neil, it sounds like the next step for 5G Techritory will be making a IT cyber security defense security high school, eh?
Yeah, so actually I'm listening to you friends with really great interest, and putting on in my notes some thoughts from you, and thinking how 5G Techritory ecosystem can really help to develop and accelerate connectivity, but not connectivity in terms of new networks, but connectivity between people. Because in one way or another, it's quite clear that of course there is very significant aspect of technologies, but as you mentioned already before, the human being is the main key to the success. And the success will be if those keys will work together. The people will understand each other, starting from Riga and Tallinn and Washington and back to Oslo and Berlin, etc., etc. Yeah, and of course it's important to understand what is missing. So because I know cybersecurity as an environment actually is very structured, is super structured to many other ones. But still we see that there is some sort of weak parts, or we see still can see and hear some accidents. So my question actually very quickly to you friends is, what do you see an ecosystem can do more in terms of there is a deficit? So, and you as an ecosystem should do something with this deficit. What will be very quickly note from each of you?
Yes, let me take that one. I think we discussed a lot about education today, and maybe as just an example, something very similar, Evijs already mentioned what LMT did in cooperation with other partners in Latvia to support the DDA educational programs. What we did, we supported the part of the Harvard IT education program implementation in one of the educational institutions in Latvia. And I think these are the small steps. And as we discussed before, the exchange of information, the more we talk, the better we understand each other and the environment.
Yeah, I fully agree. You know, for me, it's all about visibility. If we have visibility and we share that visibility, we can collaborate a lot easier in terms of what we should prioritize and what we would like to go after, right? So visibility for me ties very well into that. And that's both from a collaboration perspective, but from a technology perspective as well.
Yeah, I can only add that the fact is that the problem is the number of highly educated specialists, and what we found is basically a right way is to go really into the schools. The students are very interested, very enthusiastic, and sometimes they are lacking the just a kickstart and providing the right topic and We can work together on some specialized programs to provide some topics, maybe some playground, maybe some sandbox or something. And then we are getting like, of course, still juniors, yeah, but they are guys to develop. And sometimes it's a fact that the companies are afraid to train, to invest in young guys, and then they are leaving, right? But this is the fact. This is normal life, and luckily they are staying within a country. Of course, now the cyber thing is a global thing, right? There are many workers working globally, based in Baltics. That's fine, but another thing is we are still together like a community. I'm saying it's like basically IT community together. It doesn't matter so much. Are you a competitor? Are you a customer? Are you a partner? Basically, it's still the same community. One day you're working on that side, another on this side, and hopefully we are working together on this white side, not the dark side.
Yes, I would like to add about the comment about visibility. It's very important thing and we tend to see that maybe there is sometimes not a problem with bigger companies as well as Palo Alto. I would give you kudos for that, but some medium grade smaller enterprises that because on every day, for instance, if we tend to work with cyber incidents, some security issues, the information is all. You need the feedback, you need info about what happened, and sometimes we see a gap. Besides that there is sometimes a poor set of security policies, but that is another problem. But nonetheless, if you are willing to come up and find the answers, so it's very important, and I think it will only increase in time with these new technologies, such as 5G, but not only that.
I think this really demonstrates to us that no matter what technologies we have coming in, it's us, the people, the individuals who really shape the reality that we live in, regardless. So now that we have gone through our questions, I want to thank you, panelists, everyone, for participating. Listeners, I'm sure that the Riga Security Forum would ask me to subscribe to the podcast if you like talks like these. And of course, if you are interested in finding out more about 5G technologies and next generation technologies, go to 5gtechritory.com and sign up. We will have our forum at the end of November, and that's something you should definitely not miss. So thank you again to all of our panelists, and I will say good day and good night to everyone, and until the next time.